What is up, guys? I'm so excited to be going through these two books of the Bible with you guys this week. I hope you guys are having fun and keeping in with the summer reading and the video series. Everybody on Rep Group and the staff, everybody's just done such a phenomenal job this summer. I am so excited to be jumping in with you guys. I hope that you guys are having a good wrap up to your summer. Now that I'm doing this, there is, I guess, 1 week. I move in kind of early, but for some of you, like 2 weeks left of summer, 1 week, whatever. It's going by fast. We're all going to be back at campus soon. It's going to be a great time. But yeah, I am just thrilled to be going through the book of Haggai and Colossians. Haggai is super awesome because this summer especially, I've never really read the Bible in depth. So the things that I've read are like, New Testament, Gospels, the letters, but I've never really gone through the minor prophets. So this is just awesome to kind of read through, look at the Bible Project videos that are super helpful, and just look through books that I've never really gone through before. But book of Haggai, from what I collected from the Bible Project, just a little background, the Babylonians had forced the Israelites out of Jerusalem, and now the Babylonian Empire collapsed, so the Persian Empire allowed the Israelites to come back into Jerusalem to rebuild their housing and their village and such. But when they came back, the Israelites didn't quite have the right priorities, and they started rebuilding their own homes and their own wealth and kind of their own reputations before they began rebuilding God's temple and kind of their faith almost. But yeah, so just looking into a few verses here. Verse 4, when it says, "Is it a time for yourselves to be living in your paneled houses while this house remains a ruin?" And the Lord is basically just calling them out here, saying, my house, my temple is still not rebuilt, and you guys are just neglecting this, and your desires, your own source of need is coming first, while you're not relying on me to provide for you, while you give me your efforts and give me your time and rebuild my temple first. And verse 6, actually closely following that up, when it says, you have planted much but harvested little. You eat but never have enough. You drink but never have your fill. You put on clothes but are never warm. And you earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. And all that just goes to say that this might have come from the Bible Project, but that basically the people don't really have a purpose. They're chasing everything for themselves. They're living off their own desires. They're chasing wages that have, holes in their purses, and they're chasing clothes that put them on, they get no warmth. They're chasing things that aren't fulfilling their purpose because they aren't pursuing the Lord with their heart. And they're just living for themselves, and essentially they're never reaching that satisfaction that their soul needs. They're never reaching that true satisfaction. They're just trying to find it and fill it up with empty space. Verse 8, I really enjoyed this. It says, "Go up to the mountains," talking to the Israelites, "and bring down timber and build my house so that I may take pleasure in it and be honored." And the entire book is pretty much just about heart posture and how so much injustice and so much, so much injustice and impurity is kind of, when the town is being rebuilt, so much injustice and impurity is being instilled into that community, and the generation that's building it is kind of instilling it in the foundations. And so God is saying, go up and get this timber, get this lumber from the mountain so that I might be honored by it, because essentially they're trying to rebuild the temple, but their heart's not in it, and they're kind of just, they're putting up 4 walls and a roof, and it's just like checking off the box. You don't really want to read, but you're just going to read a couple verses to say you did it, or you don't, want to go to this event. You don't want to go to small group. You're just going to go and kind of go through the motions to just check the box and say you did it. God's saying, I want to take pleasure in this. I want to be honored by it. You can't just put up 4 walls and say it's the temple. You gotta take pride in it. You have to make the Lord take pride in it and allow for that to happen as well. And then verse 10, these were just all kind of lumped together. But the Lord says, "Therefore, because of you, the heavens have withdrawn withheld their dew, and the earth its crops. The heavens have withheld their dew, and the earth its crops. And this is coming right after, he's saying, your heart's not in it. You have to honor me. You can't just check off the box. You can't just toss up the four walls and be done. And now he's saying, because your heart's not in it, you don't have the right heart posture. The earth has withheld its crops. The heavens have withheld its dew. Basically, the Lord is not just going to bless the Israelites just to bless them. He's going to bless them when their heart is in it, when their heart's in the right place, when they truly want to glorify him and not just put up the temple because that's what they should do. And that's pretty powerful. It's not just they're God's chosen people, that's their label, so they get automatic blessings. They have to be committed, they have to be in it. Yeah. And then verse 2:14, Haggai says, so it is with this people and this nation in my sight, declares the Lord. Whatever they do and whatever they offer there is defiled. Again, talking about this whole thing just goes back to the temple, how at first they didn't want to build it, and then they build it and their heart's not in it. They're not building it the way that honors God. They're not doing it the honoring way. And now God's saying, you've done this, and now you're just trying to check more boxes. You're trying to, the offering you're going to put down, whatever you do in there, the praise, it's just going to be defiled because the foundation that it's built on it's instilled with injustice, impurity, like lack of heart posture. So anything that you do in that from now on, it's just going to be checking another box. It's going to be defiled. But going on to Colossians, this is one of Paul's letters. I love the letters. I love 1 Corinthians, Ephesians, Philippians, and 2 Corinthians as well. And then Colossians is when Paul's in prison, he's writing to the church of Colossae. And I like to go to verse 15. This really hit me deep when my Bible has like headings. So the heading of this is the supremacy of the Son of God. And right below verse 15 says, the Son is the image of the invisible God. He is the firstborn over all creation. For in him all things were created, things on heaven and on earth. And then he is the head of the body of the church. He is before all beings. Just kind of laying that foundation for the church that Jesus is the embodiment of an invisible God. He's the image. He's the firstborn through all things. He was created. It's very powerful. And verse 21 right below it says, once you were alienated from God and your enemies were in your minds because of your evil behavior. Just think about, once we were enemies from God. That's what sin is. Sin is separation from God. Sin is when you miss the mark, when God can't exist in sin. So we were once enemies of God, and we were only reconciled by that bridge that Christ creates, that bridge that when he took our sin, he gave us that offer of salvation. Also right below that, verse 24, chapter 1, verse 24. Now I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, and I fill up my flesh and still lacking in regard for Christ's afflictions. And that first sentence there, I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, made me think immediately of James 1, verse 2 and 3. And I'm sure a lot of you know this. Rejoice, brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many, for it is through trials that God creates perseverance of faith. And that's, it's very true if you think about it. If you've ever gone through a trial, if you've ever had to trust God through a hard point in your life, it's really, it's easy when things are going well. It's so easy to just trust God and, know that he'll get you through it and recognize that he's given you that. But when times really get hard and maybe you can't see the end of it just yet and you just don't know where your next step's going to be, that's really where faith takes the step in, and you really have to trust the Lord that he will provide and he'll get you to the other side. So Paul right here, he's in prison when he writes this. He says, I rejoice in what I'm suffering for you. So even in prison suffering in there, he's rejoicing because he knows that his faith is being strengthened, and he trusts in the Lord that this is his plan for him. And it's just a beautiful verse right there. Going into chapter 2, verses 16 and 18, in that little section right there, Therefore, do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink, or with regard to a religious festival, a new moon celebration, or Sabbath day. Do not let anyone who delights in false humility and the worship of angels disqualify you. And I think they mentioned this in the Bible Project video, is kind of what I get from this as well. I see that it's don't really fall victim to human law. And I think we talk about this a lot when we talk about the Pharisees, because they were so caught up in all of the human laws and the worldly laws that they created. And they were, with Jesus letting the disciples pick the grain on the Sabbath and healing on the Sabbath. And they're so caught up in their human laws that they've made and sticking to every single law so tightly that they, Paul here says, don't fall victim to all the tiny human laws, because Jesus is coming to basically fulfill that. He's not coming to take it away. He's coming to replace it and fulfill it. And Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light, not all of the laws that you have written on this scroll. Going into chapter 3 of Colossians, I'm getting a little late here, I'll wrap it up. But verse 11, when it says, "Here there is no Gentile or Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave or free, but Christ is in all and is in all." And that's just incredible there, thinking about, back in a couple hundred years ago, there was like racial segregation and stuff, but nowadays there's tons of like little cliques and such that, like, Jew and Gentile, they didn't have the same faith. They're circumcised, uncircumcised, slave or free. Like, there's tons of, I don't know, political or just demographic categories that we have even today that you kind of separate yourself from other people that you think maybe, we're not them, or they aren't part of us. But this says, there is no Jew or Gentile, there is no slave or free, but Christ is in all. And we're all tethered together through Jesus. And then one last verse here, because I really, really like this verse. Verse 14 in chapter 3 says, "And over all these virtues put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity." And it makes me think of, I had to look up the verse, but 1 Corinthians 13:13, when it says something along the lines of, and what you have left is these three: faith, love, and hope. And then it says, but of the greatest of these is love. And it makes me think of a lot of, I can't remember if it's like a song lyric or just a quote, but it says, like, if I give all my money to the poor, or if I donate all my time to charity, if I help out 1 million people, but I don't have love, what have I gained? And that just goes to show, like, even back to Haggai, with the heart posture of the Israelites. If you don't have love in your heart, you're not doing it for the right reason, you're not doing it to glorify the Lord, then what have you gained, And it says, put love over all other virtues. And so that's a huge thing for me, at least, heart posture, and, doing things that I know I should do, but I don't necessarily want to do at that given moment. And just doing things with the right heart posture, doing the right things with the right heart posture. And that's a good verse to wrap it up. But I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. I hope your summer wraps up nicely and everybody makes it to school safe, and I'll see you guys later.